Hello, this is Kyle with Serve Wisconsin. We are the Wisconsin National and Community Service Board, and we work with AmeriCorps programs throughout the state. And what we're doing right now is we're interviewing different AmeriCorps members about their experiences this year, particularly how their services changed during the COVID-19 pandemic. And with us today is Charles. So Charles, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on, Kyle.
So we're so happy to have you on. So Charles, can you tell us a little bit about what program you're serving with right now and what your service looked like before the COVID-19 pandemic started spreading here in Wisconsin?
Right, so I served 3 years with NCCAP, North Central Community Action Program here in Wausau, Wisconsin. What I did was I served at Wausau East High School. There I helped run a resource center called the ALC, the Academic Learning Center. It was new. It was totally new. Actually, my first year that I served, it was a new creation by the school. And its purpose was to help students who were deemed at risk of not graduating with their class. We kind of called them reluctant learners. There are students who struggled, who did not work well in a regular resource center, which is basically like a study hall. And in the ALC, what we did, it was me, another AmeriCorps member, and at least one other staff teacher who was assigned for a period or two during the day. And in that resource, we helped the students more on a one-on-one basis, where we helped them work on assignments, get caught up with assignments, study for tests, quizzes, look over their grades, make sure that they're all up to date and that they're passing all their classes. So it was basically an area where these students who normally struggle in a quote unquote regular resource or study hall or class would be assigned, and we would help them more one-on-one to get that extra help from us. So that's what we were doing before COVID-19.
And then, so I'm assuming since you were there for 3 years, all at the same high school in the ALC, were you working with many of the same students over that period of those 3 years?
Basically, yeah. We had a lot of return. I think when we ended this year, we had a total of 70 students. Only this year. It fluctuated, each year. But I forgot, how many students we had last year, the following year. But we ended up getting about a total of about 70 students in the ALC. So that's a good group. Many of them were returning. We helped from, freshman to senior year and everything in between. So we would, get seniors in, but then they would graduate, and then we get another group of students in. We did keep assigned students throughout the 3 years. So we were able to establish many relationships with those students because they were familiar with us, we were familiar with them. We basically held on to a familiar group of students as well as, new faces.
That's really nice. Now, since you were in a school setting, obviously there's going to be a pretty dramatic change to what service is going to look like once the school shut down in March. So what have you been doing and the other members at NCCAP been doing with your service in response to COVID and the school closures?
Well, for me and the other AmeriCorps member at East, our job didn't really change, or I should say our job description didn't really change during COVID-19. We were still, the ALC resource at Wausau East. The only difference was that we were virtual. And it's an unfortunate case because normally when we usually sit, right next to our students at a table in the resource during the class period. So whether we're helping them with assignments, studying for tests, with flashcards, or looking through their grades on a computer, that changed during, the COVID-19 pandemic, because since it was all virtual, we were basically trying, I stress trying to do that via email, and virtual meetings like Zoom, Google Meet and Google Hangouts. We were trying to use as much of the technology that was given to us or that was available to basically hold or maintain our ALC resource, our Academic Learning Center. It proved to be difficult, of course, because we didn't have as much contact with all of our students as we would have liked. This was due to a wide array of circumstances, of course. Some students did not have access to internet. Some students, had, busy or difficult, home lives, unfortunately. So we always talked about how, our school generally, not just Wausau East, but generally school is sometimes the most certainty that a student or a kid can get in their, throughout their day. So it was difficult trying to get in contact with many of our students, unfortunately. But that being said, we did keep in contact with many of our ALC students, whether it be helping them with assignments, through Zoom, or, making comments on their assignments on a Google Doc. We held 2 meetings a week, 2 Google Meets a week for ALC staff and students to come on and ask us questions and getting touch base on things. So we were able to touch base with some students during that, and especially our staff members too, our fellow staff members. We got, a majority of our seniors graduated, so that was good. But overall, it wasn't the best situation to end my last year on, but we made it work. We made it work.
And Charles, you mentioned that you have served with NCCAP and AmeriCorps for the last 3 years. So can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to serve initially and what's kept you serving these last 3 years?
I first wanted to serve with AmeriCorps because basically, coming out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I graduated with a degree in history, which it doesn't really call for a lot of specific jobs, really. It's a pretty wide window you can do with history, which isn't a bad thing, but it can also be a tough thing because you're not certain on what you can do, or if you can get a good income from it anyway. So I was kind of lost with what I wanted to do after college. So I talked with my career advisor at Madison, and she introduced me to AmeriCorps. I had no idea what it was at first. I knew what the Peace Corps was, but I didn't know what AmeriCorps was, and it sounded the same. But she told me how it was, a national, U.S. national-based service organization. And I was like, well, service, that popped into my mind because I didn't really have any service experience before then. So I was like, well, this could be an interesting experience. And I also thought that it'd offer a pretty comfortable year to while doing my service, decide, concurrently what I wanted to do afterwards. So maybe I'd prepare for, I don't know, grad school or something while I was doing service. But of course, I'm a big procrastinator. I didn't do any preparation during my first year of AmeriCorps, which was a good thing looking back at it, because my first AmeriCorps term was busy. I was learning, of course, how to, serve at my host site and, do the community service portion of it, doing the professional development along with that. So it was a lot of different avenues that your AmeriCorps service brings that kind of converge into one. So I was busy with that. So to answer the first part of the question, I basically went into AmeriCorps because I knew nothing. One, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and 2, because I wanted to gain service experience and and 3, have kind of that interim year of kind of deciding what I wanted to do. Well, that first year turned into 3 years. deciding what I wanted to do, because I decided to join decided to come onto a second term because first I enjoyed my experience with NCCAP. I think it's a great program. You know, my program director was great. My fellow AmeriCorps members were great. We were a great cohesive team. And I greatly enjoyed my host site, Wausau East. The staff is great. The students are great. So I didn't want to give up that experience again. That combined with I was still searching for what I wanted to do. So that brought me to a second year, and then the second year turned into a third year, and that's when I was like, okay, it's a kind of about time to leave the nest, I think, and my program director agreed. I know I found out what I wanted to do, finally, my third year, and I was able to kind of stay within that environment that I wanted to be in, was with NCCAP, AmeriCorps, and Wausau East, because I developed great relationships with them. And I guess those are the components that kept me on for these 3 years.
So Charles, with your third year of AmeriCorps service with NCCAP coming to an end, I think you've mentioned there's going to be some transitioning going forward. So what's up next for you after your AmeriCorps service ends?
Well, I'm kind of on that road right now. Next week, I start my first group of classes for my graduate program at UW-Madison. I'm getting my master's in curriculum and instruction, teaching degree, and ESL certification. Yeah, I'll be starting my first classes there. It's all going to be virtual for the summer semester, unfortunately, but hopefully, you know, there's been talk of things kind of being safe enough to go back to campus in the fall. So I have my fingers crossed on that. So yeah, I'm going to be in that program starting this summer and into fall and spring, and then the next summer I should be done with it, and I should be able to have my full-fledged teaching degree. And kind of connecting that with my service, that's what I basically found out that I wanted to do through my AmeriCorps service, was become a teacher. That was always in the back of my mind, that I wanted to be a teacher, but I never really fully realized until I was kind of in the field, so to speak, in a school setting. I wasn't a teacher during AmeriCorps, but I was a tutor. I was helping teachers. I was seeing what they do. I was seeing the relationships that they made with those students. So I was like, I wanted to make a career out of that. My degree is going to be in the field of social studies, which I enjoy. That's my favorite subject. It always has been, and I thought I'd be a good teacher in it. So yeah, that's where I'm going next, and that's where my AmeriCorps service basically brought me.
That's incredible. I'm so glad that the AmeriCorps service, not only did it give you that time, but also it help you kind of find where that passion was going to lead you into that next few steps.
Right.
After having served for the last 3 years with the same program and many of the same students, I'm sure you have to have a ton of different memories and stories from your service. Is there anything that stand out that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I mentioned before the relationships that I made. Generally, that's what I remember most, or that, you know, I enjoyed the most in my service, that I keep coming back. That's what my reflection logs have been all about, for the most part, are the relationships I made. Because during my 3 years, I've seen many of the same students. I worked with many of the same staff. NCCAP wise, I worked with my my program director for those 3 years. I developed relationships with many of the same members, returning members, veterans like I am, in the organization. So that's something that I think I will carry with me, you know, throughout my life, or my memories. And more specifically, you know, those relationships have made, you know, unexpected bonds, I guess, because for example, I've received many handwritten notes from students that have just shown gratitude for the help that I've given them over the 3 years. I know I received Christmas letter from a senior that I was working with in the ALC. She was a senior this year. She recently graduated. I received a Christmas letter from her, and it was in my school mailbox. And I was surprised, honestly, because the student, was fairly introverted. Didn't really seek a lot of help from us during her time in the resource. It was kind of difficult to get her, motivated and get her, involved. But so when I read that letter, I was, surprised because, it was unexpected. And she was just saying how grateful she was for the help that I gave her, and how she enjoyed, the resource and thought it was a big help. So that was really, a big surprise, but it was a great surprise to have. More of my outgoing students, of course, I've gotten emails, or not emails, well, emails too, but more when we were doing virtual during the pandemic, but notes, handwritten notes before that from more outgoing students. But, overall it was, it was something that, I saved for my file, my AmeriCorps file, and I still have them. So that's something that I can always look to if, for encouragement, I think, in my future. Yeah. The differences that we make, not just our program, but overall the differences AmeriCorps members make in individual lives, which I think is great. So those are the memories I think I will carry from this experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be great to also carrying those memories forward. It'll even help inform your teaching more and give you even a greater background of this experience you've gained. Will even make you a better teacher in the future.
Right, definitely. I think, I'm, looking at my grad program right now, it's like, well, many of the, the things we'll be doing in this program at Madison kind of are very similar to, the experiences I had in AmeriCorps. So I think that I'm pretty well prepared for that. So yeah, definitely.
And say, well, good luck with the classes starting next week.
Oh, thank you.
And then good luck with everything else with the teaching path that's going forward. And thank you so very much for serving the last 3 years with NCCAP and making a difference for so many of the kids up in the Wausau area.
Yeah, NCCAP is a great program. We definitely serve, as much as we can in the central Wisconsin area. And it's a great program. And AmeriCorps itself is a great organization. And I really encourage people to kind of gain that experience, and because it's worthwhile. It really is. And I thank you all for kind of leading the way with that.
Thanks. It's always fun for us. And it's always wonderful for us to see the difference you guys are making, be able to talk with you all. And thank you again for talking with us today.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me, Kyle. I appreciate it.